All right, so we are Unit 8, Day 1 notes. We're into a new unit. It definitely progressively gets more difficult as the units um, go higher and higher, of course. I did want to stress to you all that this is something that you definitely need. If you get into a place where you're not really understanding, you really, really should take the time to understand the information. You will not be successful if you do not understand. That is something that I have to stress. But that is why I'm doing these videos. That's why I want to do my best to help you to understand all of this stuff. Okay. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email me and we can meet during office hours, or even sometimes I have availability that is outside of office hours, but you won't know unless you email me. So please do that. Reach out. All right. So moving forward, here are your objectives that we're going to go over today. We're going to start with just basic um, square roots. You can do this on your calculator or in your brain, whatever, whichever makes you feel comfortable. Calculator does do it for you. I can show you in just a second on this calculator. Of course, you should definitely have this. This is a wonderful investment. You use this all the way up through pre-calc. So um, your in order to solve this problem, if you wanted to use your calculator, is you push second and the x squared button. Sorry, can't see it. X squared button is here. Second x squared, which will give you the square root. And then I can put up 64 and push enter. My answer will come out to be 8. Again, put that in your head. Again, square root of 497, square root of 81. Again, calculator if you wanted to, 9. Calculator, you can use it. You can use it because it is an acceptable use in unit in math 9. So please use it if you need it. Okay, no one will shame you. Just do what you got to do. All right. So in this particular situation, they want to be sure to write your answer in simplest form. If you have the square root of this particular case, your answer is going to look like a fraction because the square root of 9 is 3 and the square root of 6 is 4. So your answer would look like 3 over 4. That would be your answer. Down here in the other case, usually when they say on the other hand, if you have like round to the nearest hundredth, you know that your answers are going to look like decimals. Okay. So here these are not perfect square roots. Okay. So in this case, what I would do is simplify the fraction first inside. And by now you should be comfortable with simplifying in this calculator, but I will show you. I usually use this ABC because the answer will come out to be, it's right over the sign button on your calculator. The answer will come out to be a fraction. So if you hit that ABC and push 18, enter, your answer comes out to be a fraction, which is, once I simplify this, becomes 4 over 9. Okay. So when I simplify, as you've seen, when I simplified the fraction, I simplified it inside the square root. I left the square root there. So now, once I take the square root of 4 and get 2, it's on the outside. Square root of 9 and get 3, now the answer is on the outside of the square root. But when I simplified within that square root and left the answer in the square root, but then I have to do square root of 2, 4, which became 2, square root of 9 became 3. Okay. Same thing here. I would simplify, and when I simplify in the fraction inside, you still keep it in the square root. So if I put 20, and then that backwards L looks like it's a division, but your answer is going to come out to be a fraction when you put it like that. So it becomes 4 over 25 there. So when I take the square root of 4, I get 2. Square root of 25, I get 5. That's how I get my answer there. So this makes it very easy or simple for you to do without really struggling too much. Okay. So these answers down here, I'm just going to do these two. All I'm going to do is just throw them in my calculator. The square root of 113. You can close it off or not. Either way, it'll give you the same answer. The square root of 113. Close it off and still give me the same answer. Especially if that's all you're doing. 10.63014, blah, blah, blah. But it wants to round to the nearest hundredth. That is 2 places after your decimal. So this is your hundredth place. Okay, you're looking at this third number. It's a 0, so if it's 5 or more, it'll make that go up, but it's not. So your answer would be 10.63. Okay, we've not moved that 3 up because of that third number. All right, let's try 27.4, square root. 27.4. All right, and our answer would be 5.23450, blah, blah, blah. They want to the nearest hundred, so you're looking at this number. If it's not 5 or more, then this number would stay the same. So your answer would be 5.23 as opposed to 5.24. Okay. Wonderful. Go to the next page. Believe it or not, this has a lot to do with the square roots. That's why they have the square roots first. So it kind of like builds on each other. If we're going to do this problem, you are going to use the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and it's used on right triangles. So if you know two sides of a right triangle, and you can tell it's a right triangle by this little box here, you can find the third side by using the Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. These a and b represent the sides of the right triangle, and then the hypotenuse is your c. Okay, so always across from the right, that little box is your hypotenuse. So you'll know that that's C. A and B really don't matter. Okay, you can pick either one of these for A or B, but C does matter. This always has to be C. If it's right across from the right triangle, the little box, then you know that that's the hypotenuse. That's C always. So 6 squared plus 8 squared, because either one of these could be A or B, it doesn't matter, equals, we don't know what this last, the C is, equals x squared. Okay, you can just throw this right in your calculator. 6 squared plus 8 squared equals 100. So 100 equals x squared. Now we need to know what C is or x is. In this case, x squared is not our answer. We need to know what x is. It says find the side length x, not x squared. So in order to get rid of the square, the opposite of a square is a square root. And you see how that came in handy earlier. So square root of 100 is 10. And the square root of x squared is x. Okay, because the square root and square cancel each other out. So that's why it gives you x. Your answer is x equals 10. I think you can handle this one on your own. Make sure you look at the key to get the answer for that one. All right, let's go down to this one. For this one, it says for the following right triangle, find the side x. Again, we don't want x squared, we want x. Round your x to the nearest hundred, so you know you're probably going to have some decimals going on there. Okay, so we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and of course we found out that the sides, okay, are a and b, a squared and b squared, and then we don't. This is the hypotenuse. That's our c across from the right triangle part, or the right angle is your hypotenuse, and that in that case is 14, so that's c squared. So we know either a or b, but we know only one side, a or b. So in this case, I'll make it a. So 8 squared plus, instead of b, we have x squared equals c squared is 14 squared. Okay, so we know those. I'm not ashamed to say I don't know what 14 squared is, but I do know that 8 squared is 64. But I put in my calculator, I got it 196. Okay, and then I'm going to subtract 64 from both sides, so I can get my x squared by itself because I need to take the square root. So it's going to be 196 minus 64, which I got 132. And then if you take the square root, because I need the x by itself, x is going to be equal to the square root of 132. And again, it wants it to the nearest hundredth. All right, nearest hundredth. So I'll put it over here. So it looks like it's going to be 11.4891, blah, blah, blah. But it said nearest hundredth, so they want this number. This number is actually 5 or bigger, so that will go up. So your answer would be 11.49. Okay, 11.49. All right. This one, again, is kind of like the ones up there. we don't know, it looks like you don't know the hypotenuse, okay? So you're going to have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 11 squared plus 10 squared equals x squared. Don't know what x squared represents c. So I can just throw that in my calculator. 11 squared plus 10 squared is going to be 221. And then, of course, I take the square root. So my x value, and I'm going to round it, okay? So 221, square root of 221 is going to be, and again, if you're looking here, this is your hundredths place. This number here would make this round up to 7. So when I put my answer, it's going to be 14.87 because that third number, the third number here, made it round up. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next problem. A kite is flying 10 feet off the ground. Its line is pulled taut and casts a 7-foot shadow. Find the length of the line. If necessary, round your answer to the nearest tenth this time as opposed to hundredth, one place after the decimal. These, and remember, the same situation happens here. This is your C value or your hypotenuse. These values they give you. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Thank goodness they gave you a little picture of it so that then you can see what's going on. Many times with these, you have to draw your own picture. All right, so I don't think in Alex, I think they kind of give you a picture of it. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. In this case, 10 squared plus 7 squared equals, we don't know what that missing value is. You can leave it at 6 or make it x, whatever, it doesn't matter as long as you understand that that letter represents something you do not know. All right, doesn't matter what the letter is. 10 squared plus 7 squared equals 149. C squared, again, we're going to take the square root. C is equal to the square root of 149, and it wants to round to the nearest 10th. This is your 10th place. We're looking at the second number this time. It's 0, so we know that it leaves that alone. If it was 5 or more, it would go up to 3, but in this case, it doesn't. So your answer is going to be 12.2 or 12.2 feet. Because of course these are feet, so your answer is going to be a feet as well. Got it? Perfect. Let's move to the next page. For some reason I didn't. Okay, I didn't see this very last page, but that's fine. All right, so let's go here. We'll just go to this one. It's fine. And I'll let you try this one on your own. Make sure you look at the key. All right, so 12-foot ladder leans against the side of the house. The bottom of the ladder is 7 feet from the side of the house. How high is the top of the ladder from the ground? If necessary, round your answer to the nearest 10th. It's important to look at that because if they want hundredths or tenths, it'll make a difference in the answer. Okay, or thousandths or whatever. All right, so in this case, we do not know this side. We can tell that this is the hypotenuse because it's across from the little box or the right angle. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We know that we can say a squared is 7 plus, we don't know what this is, but we know the hypotenuse is 12 squared. 7 squared is 49, 12 is 144, b squared. Subtract 49 from both sides. Okay, we have b squared equals 144 minus 49, and that will give us 95. And of course, we take the square root of both sides. B is equal to the square root of 95, which becomes, and of course, you're looking at the 10th place, so we're looking at here where the 7 is. 4 is not 5 or more, so we're going to leave that. It's going to be 9.7 as your answer because they went to the nearest 10. Okay, good. All right, so now let's go to the back. This is the one I didn't really see, but we will talk about these. I'll go ahead and do this one. Looks like I'll do this one. That's fine. This one because we're going to kind of talk about it. And then down here, I will make sure to talk about these. Okay. because you need these to kind of get you on to the next situation. We'll talk about that once you start with your notes on day 2, and then we'll kind of talk about these. All right. So evaluate the following. State not a real number is applicable. And as you should know, if there's a negative under the square root, the answer is not a real number. So in this particular case, when the negative's on the outside, it's fine. So the square root of 25 is 5, so the answer will be -5 because the negative just kind of waits on the outside. But if they have that negative here, it is not a real number. Okay, it's actually imaginary. And yes, you will go into that, but not for now. Okay, your answer would be 11i because it's an imaginary number there. Same thing here, not a real number. And then for this particular one, that would be -9. So this one would be an actual number. All right, so for all real, that's important, real square roots of the following numbers, if there's more than one answer, separate them with commas. If there's none, state none. So for this particular situation, they're saying, what are all the real numbers that can basically multiply to give you these numbers for the square roots? So in this case, your answer would be 9 and -9. Why is that true? Because 9 times 9 is 81, and -9 times -9 is +81. So both of these are actual answers or solutions to this particular situation, because both of these, when you square them, you get 81. So they are real solutions to 81. But if you cannot get that -21, if you multiply 11 times 11, you get +21. If you multiply -11 times -11, you get +21. So this cannot happen. This one is none. Okay, there's none there, none there, and same thing applies here. 7 and -7. Multiply 7 times 7, you get 49. -7 times -7, +49. So that's what they kind of want to relate to you, so that you understand that these are real solutions to these if you had the square root. So because later on you're going to have to do something with that. But right now it says assume the variable represents a positive number and you have basically these exponents up here going on. When you have a square root, when you have a square root, and I want to stress this for square root, because if you have cube root, it'd be kind of like the same. What you do is basically for exponents is just divide, because you have a square root. If they had like a little 4 out here, you divide by 4. If it would have 3 out here, you divide by 3. But in this case, it's square root. So 24 divided by 2. This is only for exponents. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So this becomes b to the 12th power when it comes outside of the square root. Same thing here, I divide by 2, y to the 7th power would be my answer there. What is the square root of 64? You kind of split these up, okay? And this one, you divide by 2, the square root of 64 is 8. So this will become y to the 6 divided by 2 is 3, okay? So you're doing something differently. When you have the number in front, you just basically take the square roots. Square root of 64 is 8 times 8, so 2 of the same numbers come out one time. That's why that becomes 8. This, with the exponent, you just divide by the number. Okay, so if we had here, same thing, 49 here, w to the 14th is here. And then the square root of 49 is 7. You divide this by 2, w to the 7, and that's what you get there. All right, so that's your answer there, and hopefully that'll help you in moving on into the next section. You kind of like it leans itself into the next section. So make sure you watch day 2 of Unit 8.